Chosen ones, listen carefully, for time itself is bending around you. In a world where hours pass like silent shadows, you are not aging as others do. The wrinkles that should come with sorrow remain absent. The fading strength that humbles kings has bypassed you. Your reflection mocks the rules written into the bones of men, as if an unseen hand has reached into the clockwork of your body and turned the gears backwards. You are aging in reverse, and heaven is unsettled. The angels stand in quiet watch, uncertain if this is a miracle of mercy or a disruption in the great design. For what is youth but a gift, and what is time but a measure of obedience? If that obedience is broken, then the one who made time itself must surely be watching, waiting, and weighing what this reversal means. Already the stars burn with questions. Why you? Why now? Has your soul been marked since birth, destined for a path that no mortal has dared to tread? Or have you stumbled into a secret that was never meant for flesh to hold? Heaven's silence is not an answer. It is an echo, a warning, and a test. You may notice small things first. The laughter of children carrying weight in your chest, as if their voices awaken something familiar in you. The sunlight touching your skin, as though it has not known you for decades, but for only a day. Even the moon, pale and distant, seems to look at you with eyes of recognition. These are not coincidences. They are messages written in creation, pointing toward a mystery far larger than yourself, and yet, chosen one, you must walk carefully. Not all who see will understand. The world has little tolerance for those who escape its rules. They will call you cursed, blessed, or dangerous. But heaven calls you something else entirely, a question that has yet to be answered. The sands of your hourglass do not fall downward. They rise. They climb back toward the heavens from which they fell. And as they do, the gates above stir restlessly, for eternity has begun watching you with more than casual interest. The mirror has always been a simple witness, a silent recorder of truth. But on that morning, when your eyes met your reflection, something had shifted. It was subtle at first, like a trick of light, a fleeting moment where you thought perhaps the glass was fogged. Yet no mist clung to it. No breath of distortion blurred the silvered surface. What stared back at you was not the weary face you had grown accustomed to carrying through the years, but a version of yourself that belonged to the past. The lines that hardship had carved upon your skin were smoothed, softened, as though they had never existed at all. Your reflection had turned traitor, revealing a truth you could not deny. You touched your face, searching for cracks in reality, yet your fingertips met only the texture of youth. No artist's hand could have painted such flawless detail. This was not illusion, it was transformation. The air around you felt charged, a faint hum lingering, as if the very atoms of the room were aligning themselves to an unseen command. You leaned closer, and the eyes that stared back at you seemed brighter, clearer, unburdened by time. A whisper moved through your mind, too soft to place, too fleeting to grasp. It was not a voice you recognized, yet it carried authority, a weight that pressed upon your spirit. The thought came uninvited. You were being observed, not by neighbors, nor by curious men, but by forces older than the earth, beings who knew the true value of a single heartbeat. The day carried on, yet nothing remained ordinary. Strangers looked twice, their gazes lingering longer than courtesy allowed. A child tugged at her mother's sleeve as you passed, whispering something you could not hear but felt within your bones. The air smelled different, colors seemed sharper, and time itself appeared to breathe in sync with you. You were no longer a participant in the flow of days. You were its interruption, its defiance. And yet, there is an unease that stirs with the gift. For every reflection hides a question, and every question demands an answer. When the mirror lies, it is not because it has chosen to deceive. It is because something greater has rewritten the truth behind it. The city around you seemed to age with relentless speed, its stone walls crumbling, its iron rusting, its people fading beneath the weight of time. Yet, in the midst of such steady decline, you remained untouched, moving through the ruins like a contradiction. The contrast was undeniable. The grocer's hands shook as he weighed fruit. The tailor's back bent as he stitched. The faces of neighbors sagged with the toll of years, and yet your body resisted every mark that life demanded. To them, you were a quiet enigma. To heaven, you were a puzzle suspended between wonder and warning. Even in the market's noise, whispers rose around you, faint but sharp. Some said you carried the secret of alchemists. Others claimed sorcery flowed through your veins. A few dared to utter words of blessing, imagining your presence as a miracle sent in a season of despair. But deep within, you knew neither praise nor suspicion could explain the truth. Something unseen was bending the laws of existence in your favor, and it was not yours to control. One evening, as the bells tolled and the sky burned crimson with the last light, a traveler approached you. His face was unfamiliar, yet his eyes carried a weight of recognition, as if he knew more of you than you knew yourself. He spoke softly, with the certainty of one delivering a message. "Do not marvel," he said, "for even Yeshua once reminded us that life does not belong to the flesh, but to the one who commands the hours." His words lodged in your chest, piercing you with a strange mixture of hope and dread. If time itself was shifting, could it be the same hand that once walked among men, speaking of eternal life, now guiding your reversal? Or was it another power masquerading in holy tones? The traveler vanished into the crowd before you could question him. Yet his words lingered long after, repeating in your thoughts with the rhythm of a heartbeat. Each whisper you heard around town became colored by his warning. Every glance from a passerby seemed sharper, every shadow deeper. In the quiet hours of the night, when the world's noise faded into shadows, you began to notice the patterns. They were not written on paper nor carved into stone, but they pulsed within the very fabric of reality. Time itself had a rhythm, a cadence that most could never hear. Yet now, your senses sharpened to it. The ticking of a clock no longer sounded ordinary. It was a chant, a code, a secret language stretching across centuries. You could feel its pull, guiding you toward something hidden just beyond the veil of perception. One evening, while walking through abandoned streets, you stumbled upon a door half buried in ivy. Its frame was old, its wood swollen with the weight of forgotten years. Yet carved into its surface was a symbol you did not recognize, though every fiber of your being told you it recognized you. A spiral wrapped within a circle, encased by marks that seemed to shift when you blinked. You pressed your hand against it, and warmth surged beneath your palm, as if the door itself was breathing. The air around you trembled, and for a moment, the world stilled. When the latch gave way, you entered a chamber untouched by decay. Dust clung to the air, but the room was alive with whispers, as though countless voices had once passed through and left their residue behind. At the center stood a pedestal, and upon it rested a seal unlike anything mortal hands could craft. It was forged of metal that shimmered between gold and silver, its edges carved with impossible precision. Every line glowed faintly, pulsing in rhythm with your own heartbeat. You reached out, and the seal seemed to recoil before pulling you closer, binding your presence into its orbit. Images flashed across your mind, fractured glimpses of vast halls filled with radiant beings, scrolls stretching into eternity, and great hourglasses that did not pour sand downward but upward, back toward an unseen origin. These were the timekeepers, the unseen custodians of the world's balance, and they had marked you, though you did not yet understand why. The chamber groaned as though the act of revealing itself had broken some law. Shadows stretched longer, whispers grew louder, and your pulse quickened with the knowledge that the seal had awoken to your presence. The seal remained in your possession, though you were uncertain if you carried it or if it carried you. Each night, you dreamt of its glow. Each day, you felt its weight even when it was hidden from sight. The mark upon its surface pulsed with a rhythm that did not belong to any earthly clock, and when silence deepened, you swore you could hear a voice humming in its core. It was not words, but resonance, as if eternity itself had learned to sing through metal. In the midst of this strangeness, you began to see inscriptions where none should exist. On the walls of your dwelling, faint patterns emerged like light pressed through stone. On your skin, subtle traces of lines appeared, only to vanish when touched. Even the passing clouds seemed to shape themselves into fragments of an ancient script. It was as though the seal had awakened a language older than the stars, one written not in ink or stone, but in time itself. One night, as the hourglass moon hung heavy in the sky, the symbols revealed themselves more clearly than ever before. Across the seal's surface you saw letters forming, delicate and radiant. The curves and lines twisted into a name you recognized, though you had never expected to see it there. It was the name of Yeshua, etched not by hand but by eternity itself. The moment you saw it, the seal burned brighter, and the pulse within it aligned with your own heartbeat, as though his name was binding you to something beyond comprehension. The room trembled. A draft swept through the air, though no window was open. The candles shuddered as their flames elongated, stretching toward the seal as though it commanded their loyalty. You could feel the weight of eyes upon you, watchers unseen, guardians or accusers, you could not tell. The inscription of Yeshua's name was not a blessing lightly given. It was a declaration, a claim over your hours, a reminder that your backward journey of youth was not without oversight. The name glowed once more, then dimmed, leaving behind only silence. Yet the silence was not empty. It carried questions that pressed against your spirit, questions you dared not answer too quickly. It was not mortals alone who noticed your strange reversal. In the unseen realms, where wings brush the edges of creation and voices carry like thunder across eternity, there was unrest. Angels, who had long observed humanity with calm detachment, now found their composure slipping. For your tomorrow did not follow the order written for all living souls, and what breaks the order unsettles even those who stand closest to its author. They gathered in quiet councils, speaking in tones that stirred the air with unease. Some whispered that you were a sign of the end, a living herald of change too great to comprehend. Others feared you were a wound in time itself, a tear that could unravel the balance between beginning and end. The thought that a mortal might walk against the current of years was not merely an anomaly, it was a danger. You began to sense them even before you saw them. Shadows falling without cause, the faint rustle of wings in places where no bird could dwell, the cold pressure of being watched from a vantage unseen. One night, while sleep tugged at your spirit, a figure appeared at the edge of your vision. Its form glowed faintly, neither threatening nor gentle, but its gaze was sharp with hesitation. When it finally spoke, its voice carried the weight of countless ages. "You were not meant to walk this path," it said, "and yet you do. Do you know what awaits when tomorrow fears you?" The question lingered even after the figure dissolved like mist. You woke with your heart pounding, the seal beside you humming with energy as though it had absorbed every word. The air of your chamber felt charged, as if angels had passed through it and left their unease behind. Every hour that followed pressed heavier upon your shoulders, not with the burden of age, but with the awareness that you were drawing the attention of powers that did not agree on what should be done with you. Some angels feared you, others perhaps envied you, and a few might have even admired the defiance you embodied. But all of them watched, and their watching was no small matter. The only question that remained was whether their fear of your tomorrow would compel them to protect you, or to strike before tomorrow could ever come. Beneath the veil of creation, there exists a gathering few have heard of, and fewer still have glimpsed. They are not angels in the way stories tell, nor are they men bound by earth's decay. They are watchers who sit between light and shadow, a council whose decisions ripple through centuries, like stones breaking the surface of still water. It is whispered they convene only when the flow of time threatens to fracture, and it was for you that they assembled. You were never invited, yet the seal you carried dragged your spirit toward their chamber in dreams. A hall stretched without end, lit not by flame, but by the glow of living memory. Figures, cloaked in shadow, leaned forward on thrones carved from fragments of eternity. Their faces were hidden, their voices layered, speaking in unison like echoes colliding in a cavern. Each word they uttered shook your bones, for it was less speech than decree. "You," they said, "walk against the order. Time bends not forward, but backward upon you. We are called to weigh what this means." Their gazes pierced through you, stripping you of pretense, reading every moment of your existence as if it were written plainly before them. You tried to speak, but your voice was swallowed by the weight of their presence. Then, among their questions, a name rose from their council like a flame breaking through smoke. They spoke of Yeshua, the one whose hours had once been surrendered and yet triumphed over death itself. They debated whether your reversal echoed his path or mocked it, whether the name etched into your seal was proof of divine authorship or an imitation crafted to deceive. Their voices clashed, some trembling in reverence, others in suspicion. You felt your heart race as the chamber grew darker. The council's verdict had not been reached, and until it was, your fate would hang in silence. One of the cloaked figures leaned closer, and though its face remained unseen, and its words carved themselves deep into your mind, if eternity claims you, mortal, then the weight of his name will either crown you or consume you. The chamber vanished in an instant, and you awoke, gasping, the seal burning against your skin, its glow refusing to fade. Nights stretched longer now, as though darkness itself wished to keep you hidden from the eyes that searched. Yet even within the cloak of shadow, a light began to reveal itself, not from candles, nor from stars, but from within you. It was faint at first, like a lantern flickering in the distance, but with every backward breath of your life, it grew stronger, illuminating paths you did not know you walked. The seal trembled when the light appeared, and once again the strange inscriptions shimmered across its surface. Among them, a single word returned to you, the same that had burned itself into your thoughts before: Yeshua. His name did not fall upon you as a mere echo, but as a weight of presence, as though even the backward spin of your years could not erase the imprint of his hours lived and given. There were moments you remembered fragments of scripture once spoken, words that had been carried through ages like a torch against the night. I am the light of the world, they rang in your memory, and in that instant, the glow within you seemed to pulse in agreement. Could it be that your reversal was not an escape from time's decay, but an unveiling of his light through you, a living parable hidden in flesh? Or was it simply the illusion of comfort, drawing you deeper into mystery with no answers? Your skin grew younger each morning, your reflection brighter, your eyes clear as a crystal pool's. Yet the more your body defied time, the heavier the spiritual weight pressed upon you. For light is not without consequence. It exposes, it reveals, it draws attention from those who prefer shadows. And the more Yeshua's name echoed in your hours, the more the unseen realm stirred. One night, while you walked beneath the pale moon, you felt the atmosphere shift. A voice broke into the silence, not from outside but within. If the reversal is his light, then you are no longer your own. The words struck like thunder, rattling both your heart and the very air around you. The glow within you flared once, then dimmed, leaving you with a silence heavier than any night before. Legends spoke of places never meant for mortal eyes, halls where the wings of the seraphim brushed the walls, and their voices etched history into eternal stone. These were the archives, hidden far beyond the realms of earth, sealed by fire, and guarded by watchmen who had never tasted rest. It was said that within those endless chambers were the chronicles of time itself, the blueprints of existence, the records of every life written and weighed. No mortal was to enter, yet the seal in your possession pulsed as though it knew the way. You were drawn in dreams again, carried across a vast expanse where stars bent like rivers and light cascaded downward like rain. When your feet touched the marble floor, you realized you stood at the threshold of those forbidden halls. The doors loomed high, carved from crystal so clear you could see echoes of your own reflection stretching into infinity. With each heartbeat, the seal grew hotter in your hand until the gates parted, as if compelled to obey what it recognized within you. Inside, the archives breathed. Scrolls unrolled themselves, ink glowed faintly upon parchment, and the walls whispered with voices that belonged to neither man nor angel. You walked past tomes bound in gold, records that glimmered like fire, shelves that stretched so far they vanished into light. Each page you glimpsed carried fragments of existence, births, deaths, wars, kingdoms risen and fallen, all catalogued with precision beyond comprehension. And then, in a chamber at the center, you found something more unsettling. A book lay open, and across its pages was your name. Not only your past, but your present, written in strokes of living flame. The words shifted as you watched, rearranging themselves with every breath you took, recording the reversal of your years in real time. The ink itself recoiled and shimmered, as though even the archives struggled to contain what you had become. A shadow moved behind you, tall and radiant, but its face hidden by fire. Its wings stretched to the ceiling, and its voice filled the chamber with both awe and warning. These records were never meant for you. To read what is written here is to carry a burden you cannot put down. The book glowed brighter, drawing your gaze to the next line still unwritten. You were pulled from the archives as though a hand larger than creation itself had seized you. One moment you stood among the shelves of living flame. The next you were thrust into a chamber vast enough to swallow galaxies. The timeless throne loomed before you, neither golden nor jeweled, but formed of light so pure it seemed to pulse with the heartbeat of eternity. It was said no mortal could stand before it and live, yet there you were, trembling, your body still unwinding backward through years. Around the throne, figures gathered, angels robed in fire, watchers cloaked in shadow, and beings whose eyes carried the memory of countless worlds, their attention fixed on you, the one anomaly that had disturbed the river of time. Their voices rumbled like thunder, layered upon thunder, each question striking with the force of judgment. Why had you been spared the erosion of age? What authority had inscribed Yeshua's name upon your hours? Was it a seal of blessing, or a counterfeit meant to deceive even the elect? You tried to speak, but your words dissolved in the air. Only the seal responded, glowing with restless energy in your hand, as though it recognized the throne and longed to return to its source. Then the court fell into silence, and in that silence a memory pierced you. It was of Yeshua's trial before men, the accusations hurled at him, the silence he chose instead of defense. You felt the weight of that silence now, a reminder that truth does not always need the tongue to stand. The throne pulsed once, and the chamber shook. A voice descended, not loud, but absolute. A voice that seemed to shape reality with every syllable. This one has stepped where no mortal was meant to tread. Yet, the name written upon the seal binds them to a judgment greater than ours. The words froze the air, and you felt every gaze upon you sharpen, no longer with simple curiosity, but with anticipation. The throne glowed brighter, and in its radiance you knew a verdict was near. Yet instead of an answer, the voice left you with silence once more, a silence heavy with decision, not yet spoken. The throne's light faded, and you were cast back into silence, the kind of silence that stretches longer than a lifetime yet hangs suspended in a single breath. The seal no longer burned, yet its weight had grown unbearable, as though every second it pulsed against your skin carried the weight of centuries. You wandered through a landscape unrecognizable, a place where time did not move in lines but spirals, where the sun both rose and set in the same sky, where the air tasted of beginnings and endings at once. There, you encountered mirrors unlike any you had seen before. Not glass, but water suspended in the air. Shimmering portals reflecting versions of yourself at different ages. A child reaching for the sky with wonder. An adult hardened by trial. An elder wise with years you no longer carried. They all stared at you with knowing eyes, as if to say, "You are all of these, and yet none." You reached toward one reflection, but the surface rippled away, rejecting your touch. It was not for you to decide which version you would remain. A whisper rose from the spirals around you, not with accusation, but with insistence. "Who commands your hours?" The words echoed again and again, each time closer, each time heavier, as though creation itself demanded an answer. It was not a question of youth or age, nor of blessing or curse. It was the question at the heart of every step you had taken since the first moment your reflection betrayed you. You thought of the council, of the angels who feared you, of the archives where your life was being written line by line. You thought of the throne's silence, the weight of countless gazes upon your fragile form. Yet none of these answered the whisper. The power over your hours could not be claimed by accident, nor by seal alone. It was a command belonging to something higher, and still the demand pressed closer. Who commands your hours? The spirals drew inward, collapsing into a single point of light that seared your vision. The reflections shattered. The ground beneath you dissolved, and you were left standing in nothingness with the question burning against your very soul. And before the silence broke, you felt it. Your next breath would determine everything.
If you have come this far, it is crucial that you watch this next video here. But be warned, it is not for the faint of heart, for only the true chosen ones can handle this video. If you would like to also donate to help keep the channel going, our Buy Me a Coffee link will be in the description.